Okay. Hello, dear ones. We're going to recap sessions 10 and 11. Basically, when you folks started your spelunking down under Chisembro Manor, where you found a big old water cistern in a storage room, and bursting out of it was a spicy water tentacle, which, after a bunch of whacking back and forth, opened up Trelena's dance card, and afterwards, you killed that spicy water tentacle and mixed its bag, which held a set of small adult-sized clothing, a healing potion, and an invisibility potion, and 100 gold. So after that, preparing and tidying yourself up, you checked out the north corridor after Brinora did her slam, spooky red eyes, open the door thing, and Elio scouted out along the way north. It's a hallway going east-west with double doors at the end, decorated with huge copper angel and some dusty footprints. Elio was careful, doing their best to get around the side, only to smash open up a trap door and fell down 20 feet. And, yeah. Welcome to the Sneaky Scouting Club, because that's what people in the front always do. But, well, they helped you out, got you out of the hole, and you all got across ropes and stuff. Opened up the angel doors, which Grax forced open with a crowbar. Inside the room were 3 big coffins, sarcophagi really. And you looked around in them and you found a couple of doors. You went to the door on your right, and next to the door, the one with the sarcophagi kind of like jumped, and it was giant and toothy and had a bunch of googly eyes and a long sticky tongue, so you named it Sticky. And there was a fight, and all the shooting, and the Elio going stabby, and Sticky was dead. Cheers, yeah, you win! Inside that door, there was 2 jail cells, prison cells, dungeon cells, and one of the cells held guards' clothes. Weird. Moving right along, you went to the other doorway from the big room where there was now 2 giant sarcophagi, but they didn't do anything weird at all. They just had some skeletons inside that weren't doing anything weird at all. And that secret door led to a hallway, and there was an armory on the right that you looted for gear, and you got some red brand cloaks to sneak up and dress like red brands. Yup. And through another door, which opened into a storage room adjacent to a huge north-south cavern, like a natural cave cavern, with a giant crevasse running through the middle of it. It was deep, and it was cold. It was scary down there. There was a couple of short bridges across the crevasse, and so you went in, and sure enough, like, there was just this coming up from beneath, this smell of like cold, decaying flesh. And as you were moving along, you all had this like feeling inside of you of insecurity and anxiety. Your worst fears were coming up, that, you would never find your way through, that you would be abandoned, that you'd never find Gundren, and suddenly, you were terrified, and you had the feeling like you were being watched. So you said, we are safe in our minds, we are safe in our bodies. I will not fear, fear is the mind killer, all of that. But Trelena didn't get the memo and started letting out a blood-curdling scream, and she started looking south and saying, he's gone, he's lost, he's dead, and she was terrified. But sure enough, right behind this weird cavern pillar was a one-eyed monster, standing and staring your way, and he just gave this like, hello, and and started talking with you. It was a weird conversation. He was interested in his stuff that he said you took. You weren't sure what, maybe the stuff in the bag, but it didn't look like those clothes would fit him. You weren't sure, and you kind of started doing this like flanking maneuver. And this guy was nasty, he was crazy, and it just wasn't going to end amicably. You could see it, so flanking out to the side, you kind of came in. Elio stepped across a bridge and fell again, this time 20 feet down into the bottom of the crevice. Yes, Elio, get used to it. Your casualty pay will be doubled, but you are uninsurable. Anyway, there was a fight, and there was like lots of this Nothic attacking with a giant purpley black sliver of a rotting gaze thing, gross, and you folks like back at you with mind slivers, trolling the dead. Grax attacked with a witch bolt, and damage, and the Nothic was lassoed. You guys were terrified, but it was flying, and it ran away then, back up through the hallway. To the west, Elio, forgotten in the deep ditch crevasse, went exploring and digging into dark, deathy soil at the bottom. Underneath the other bridge up in the north, and found the hilt of a sword. It was engraved with the name Talon. He knew some legend about this. Really interesting. But also there was a lockbox and a half-chewed-on corpse of a dwarf. The body, stashed away for later eating. Elio's cousin, Dendra, brother of Gundren. Sad, but cycle of life. Moving right along. Anyway, there was a muffled scream. The Nothic had pulled Trelena back into another room from another corridor, and Kaimos gave chase, opened up the door, and another necrotic death right to the face. Motherfucker. Kaimos wasn't having it and hurled a mind sliver. Boom. Grax came in, another witch bolt, and Nothic was zapped to death. Good job. Grax got the new magic sword after you got Elio out of the hole, and you cut off the head eye of the Nothic, and you guys made Trelena carry it to earn her keep, pay for finding Pip. Fine. The team explores and finds a wizard's laboratory to the north of the corridor, down the corridor north. And there was these spooky blue flames on the big wizardly table, and it was glowing because the flames were blue, and there was this great big sort of stone crucible, glass crucible, with 3 sort of matte silvery balls, maybe the size of a fist, maybe a small fist. And that was cool. And then there was other alchemical tools. There was a giant grimoire on a pedestal, hanging tapestry with ancient arcane runes on it, and you guys explored. So the 3 balls in the crucible were Chardalyn. Chardalyn ore or nodules. And there was a mortar and pestle right next to it with powdered Chardalyn. Interesting, you guys took all of it. And the other thing you noticed about these cold blue flames is they were force magic, not just blue fire, but they were literally force magic. And so then Benora looked at the giant grimoire tome, and it was labeled The Wonders of Phandalin. And I shared it all with you, all the information about that, so you guys can all look at that in your emails. And it describes Phandalin, the history of Phandalin, the Forge of Spells, and the Wave Echo Cave, and all of this stuff that happened like 500 years ago. And it had handwriting in the margins, careful handwriting in Elven. The rest of the book was all written in Common, but the handwriting in the margin was written in Elven, Drow Elven. And it was noting how the Wave Echo Cave was destroyed by orcs, and how they're trying to prevent humans from rebuilding the Forge of Spells. And suddenly heard a kind of rattling and a shaking behind the arcane scribed tapestry. And Benjamin got all hissy, and you all pulled the tarp aside. There was a baby red dragon. So cute. The dragon, it was trapped in a cage, and then it was muzzled, and the dragon was fucking mad, and you broke it out of its cage, and you tore off the muzzle, and as thanks, the Wyrmling breathed a gout of fire at Grax, and started going after everything and flying around the room. Before Benjamin, who was freaking out, got eaten, you opened the door, and the dragon flew out. Flappy smashing along into the cavern, and who knows where past that. So, let's go to the next room. Grax kicked the fuck out of the next door, and it was a bedroom, a nice bedroom. Velvet curtains, a giant four-poster bed, wooden chest, and on top, floating above the bed, was a giant floating, it was a ball, a sphere, with an eyeball in front, a big mouth, and then it had these 4 tentacle stalks off the top of it, and each of those stalks had an eye on top of it. They were all looking at you. On top of the floating eyeball monster was Pip, Trelina's kid. And Pip was kind of holding onto the stalks, and he was skeptical, but also like, I don't know how to get down. He was maybe overwhelmed. There was a lot going on. And you were like talking about getting Pip off, and was the floaty eye monster dangerous? And then from the door behind you was the drow lady and her giant spider. And she was like fed up. Like, what's with you people? You're in my house, you're in my bedroom, and you guys started fighting about, was she okay, was you okay, what's right here? But you also, you came to the suspicion that you folks were outgunned, if not outnumbered. And you started negotiating, and she was really very simple. She wants her stuff back. She wants her magic golden box, and she wants her red lens, and you folks want Pip and Gundren. So the spider reproduced Gundren. She wanted this to be amicable, and she didn't want Gundren or your problem child anyway. So she just had this to say: please get out of the Triboar and stay away from the orcs. And she started talking about indigenous peoples and colonizers and righteous, and he started wondering who was the bad guys here anyway. So, but it all worked out. You gave her the box, you gave her the red lens, she gave you the kid and Gundren, and you left out the door, past the wizard's stable. You didn't talk about the stuff you nicked out of her wizard's laboratory, but you went out of the crevasse and topside and safely heading back to Phandalin. But something on the way back crazy happened to Gundren. Suddenly, and it was the doppelganger Menthic, dressed like Gundren. That's why there was Gundren's clothes, because Menthic didn't need the clothes. Where's Gundren? Good question, but the doppelganger ran away, and you guys were so pissed. And now suddenly you definitely want to kill the orc leader, and maybe her stupid orcs as well. Anyway, first, dinner. It's been a while. And you asked Trelina if it was all right if you folks could stay at the Stonehill Inn for the night, and she, now being the sole proprietor, said, of course you can. You are my heroes. See. guys so much. I'm looking forward to seeing you guys on Saturday. And let me know if you have any questions. I'm going to post the write-up of this and hopefully also this video in about an hour. And let me know if you got any questions. See you soon.